Okay.
You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Let's do it, baby. You ready, Jack? Here we go. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, 8 to 10 a.m., Wednesday through Sunday. You can see our Facebook shows on Mac Sports and the Northeast Streaming Sports Facebook pages with our platform. Also on Twitter and Instagram. Check out our website at macandjacksports.com. Just changed, folks, believe it or not, to NESSP.info, where we'll be making our new home. Like, follow, comment, share, and subscribe where possible. We have our public relations updates on the website, Jack. We have our articles. We have all the Northeast streaming sports. We have great sponsors that you can link right to their products and services. So I'm Mac with your co-host, legendary boxing writer Jack Hirsch and former president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, bringing you national sports with special focus on Northeast professional sports from New York, Boston, and Philly. Good morning, Jack. How you doing?
Good morning, Mac. You know, sports is about timing, and I was just reminded of that a moment ago. Between the highlights, they show our picture every once in a while, and I'm really excited about today's show. I mean, I'm really psyched about it, but I kind of let out a little bit of a yawn. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a physical yawn, not because
Right.
I was bored. Someone's going to watch it and say, oh, another show. But I'm psyched for today's show.
Oh, my God,
Great
Jack.
guests. I mean, yeah, we're really in a row. We got the momentum going with the guests.
Yes.
I don't know how long we could keep this up, Mac. I mean, we're getting top of the line guests. Our regulars are great. Plus, we're getting new guys all the time.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
stuff.
And a good afternoon to Stewie over in the United Kingdom, folks. For those of you who are following us and follow us on Northeast Streaming Sports, we are over in the United Kingdom, and the United Kingdom has come over and got on Northeast Streaming Sports. So that's Stewie's wrestling podcast over there that is on the Northeast Streaming Sports, and he's sharing his shows over here.
And Stewie promised, and we got to do it another time, to talk old school wrestling with yours truly.
Definitely. We will definitely do that, Jack. And you brought up the guest, Jack. And today we have our weekly guest on. We got Byron Williams, who is our NFL analyst, a receiver on 5 different teams in the NFL, was in 4 different leagues. And we also have Keith Engle coming on, who is our Patriots insider, our Knicks insider. He has a great show over there at TGI Sports Talk, also on Northeast Streaming Sports. And we also have coming in a special guest, Jack, Greg Prince, who is an author of a few books on the New York Mets, and he's a historian and expert. And I've had him on a show before. Very good guest, very knowledgeable about the Mets. So we're action-packed today. We're guest-filled, and we're going to have a lot of fun today, Jack. We really are. So hopefully the people out there watching us and following us enjoy all this information and all these guests that we'll be bringing you. And it's not going to stop yet, Jack, because I've got more lined up. But first, Jack, every Friday for now, we're going to be doing our NBA standings update. And, we're going to be covering teams like this, Jack. Our Northeast teams that play up here in our area. So, Jack, as many basketball fans know, that's Sweet Georgia Brown, the Harlem Globetrotters theme song. And anybody that grew up during the time we grew up, and even afterwards, Jack, know that the Harlem Globetrotters were a great act to see and great ambassadors for basketball. So let's get in our basketball standings update. The 76ers are in first at 10-5, Jack. The Celtics are at 8-5. The Bucks at 9-6. The Pacers at 8-6. The Nets at 9-7. The Hawks and Cavs are tied for 7-7. And look out, Jack. The Knicks are now 500 with 3 games in a row at 8-8. So the 76ers won their last game, dominating the Celtics, and are playing tonight again, Jack. Embiid, that game had 42
Rematch.
points. Embiid had 42 points that game, but the Celtics weren't at full strength. They will be back to full strength tonight, Jack.
You know, you have a few of the teams bunched towards the top. It's going to take about a month more before we start having some serious separation between the teams. And then it becomes a situation where, as the year goes along, they're all going to want to position themselves for the playoffs, see the players get the right amount of rest, not get too many minutes, sharpen, the tools and all. And that's what the NBA really is about. Once you get past the midway point, you start thinking of the playoffs, not only positioning and seed, but more important that you have everyone healthy and ready to roll.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll see what the 76ers do with the Celtics tonight when they have Tatum and Curry back. The Nets lost in Cleveland, in double overtime. They're playing tonight again, Jack. Last game, no defense at all.
Listen, it's going to take time for the big three to gel. My concern is the Nets really don't have that good of a bench now. They really don't have that good of a bench. James Harden has made a conscious effort since he's come over to the Nets to shoot a little less, pass the ball more. He wants to show everyone, I'm not selfish. I'm going to give the ball up to Kyrie. I'm going to give it up to Kevin Durant. So those guys don't feel they're being deprived in any way, shape, or form. So James Harden is basically, think of this, assuming the role of point guard.
Right.
James Harden isn't a natural point guard. He's not going to be happy to just run the offense, be the leader of the offense. He's a scorer. And James Harden just holds onto the ball too long to be an effective point guard, to be the focus of the offense as far as running it. Just holds on to it too long. And he doesn't play the greatest defense. Kyrie Irving doesn't play the greatest defense. Kevin Durant's an excellent defensive player. Yeah. But it's about chemistry, Mac. And I'm a bit concerned. But with that type of firepower, when you get a big three like that, you kind of feel they still have to be the favorites to go to the NBA Finals, come out of the East.
Yeah, on paper, I might agree with you, Jack. But as you said, I think chemistry sometimes is even a little bit more important than what's on the paper. The Knicks have won 3 in a row, Jack, beating the Golden State Warriors 119-104, jumping out to an early lead and not looking back. RJ Barrett comes up with 28 points, Jack, and Randall with 17 rebounds. They're playing the Kings tonight at 10.
I'm going to tell you, the Knicks had a little assist yesterday. It's kind of funny on reflection. It wouldn't be funny if you're Draymond Green. Draymond Green is of the Warriors has been known to get technicals. He got his first technical yesterday. And as you know, if you get 2 technicals, you're out of the game. So what happened? Draymond Green is yelling at his teammate, James Wiseman, the rookie, their number 1 overall pick in the draft, because Wiseman is out of position. So Green is yelling and cursing at him for being out of position, but the referee thinks Green is cursing at him. So he gives Green the second tee and kicks him out of the game. And then the ref realizes later on he made a mistake. Yeah. So at halftime, they tell Steve Kerr, we were wrong. We made a mistake. But by that time, Draymond Green is kicked out of the game and they can't bring him back. So there's got to be a rule change. If you mistakenly kick someone out of the game and you realize it's a mistake later on, the evidence points to that, you should be allowed to bring that player back into the game. So they got to change the rules.
That's a great point, Jack, because who knows if you get in a playoff game or a championship game and that happens and you lose one of your best players, that would be terrible. But I want to talk about the Knicks a little bit. I mean, you know, they were playing good in the beginning. They kind of fell off a little bit, but they bounced back. And it seems like, Jack, with their new coach, they're fired up in the beginning of the game. And when they come back in the second half, after they have their little timeout and they go back to the locker room, they come back fired up again and ready to rock. What is your impression of, Thibodeau's coaching? I mean, is it that he's building the chemistry, or is he that strong of a motivator that he can get that team to listen to him the beginning and after halftime?
I don't know about how good a motivator he is. Maybe he's a good one. I just don't know. But I do know he maximizes talent, okay? He squeezes every last drop out of the players. They're 8-9 right now. They're trying to build a nucleus. Let's face it, with the roster they have now, a few of the players are going to be core players going forward. Thibodeau's probably determining that as they go along. Quigley is their point guard. He's erratic. One game he looks like, wow, he was a steal for the Nets as their second overall pick after top end. And then the next game he looks like so-so. They have their veteran Julius Randle, who I know you like a lot. I like him too. Just not as a franchise-type player. R.J. Barrett had a career-high 28 points last night, but he's a little bit erratic. He's going to look really good one game, so-so the next, but he's going to be a core starter going forward. Obi Toppin, I'm really curious about him. He didn't play a lot of minutes yesterday, played something like 10, 12 minutes. If you prorate his numbers, it would have been something like 15 points, 12 rebounds. If you tried to prorate it and make it about a 38-minute game, which are decent numbers, but somehow we were hoping Toppin would really be a star when they drafted him, because once in a while you get a player comes out of the draft and you have a feeling, a hope this guy's really going to take off and even exceed expectations, and I'm really not sure about him. Since certain of their young players, the jury's still out, but if a few of their young players really develop, which I anticipate they will, then the Nets are going to have to get that one marquee free agent to really make them relevant, okay? But they're positioning themselves for that, man.
Yeah, I agree, Jack. I think there's not just a today plan like they've done in the past. We'll get Carmelo Anthony and that's it. I think that with Thibodeau there and that new help up at the GM department, I forget the man's name right now, but with that, I think there's actually a
Leonard
plan.
Rose.
Yeah, there's a plan in place, right? You've got Randall, who's going to be a good player. You got Barrett, who's going to be a good player. And, these young guys are working in and out, trying to figure out what they're going to do and what their strengths are and how they improve during the season, because, this is still the beginning of the season. And I think once they figure that out, as you're saying, a core to go forward, this is going to entice the free agents to come to the Knicks because, hey, they got a good young team, a good core, and they got a plan finally where, the big thing LeBron James said about the Knicks when he went to interview with them was there was no plan. There was like, well, what are you going to do? And they said, well, we're going to move forward with – they gave him nothing to sink his teeth into to come into the Knicks. And he left and he didn't even want to hear him again. So
I don't think he was coming to the Knicks anyway, LeBron.
I agree.
But I understand what you're saying. But you know what they're doing now with Thibodeau? They have a stable environment. And other players might see it. They might see the Knicks playing hard each night. And there's still the lure in New York and Madison Square Garden. It's not what it once was, where it was every player's dream to play at the Garden. But the Garden is still relevant. New York is still relevant. And let's face it, these are young men, Mac. They like a nightlife. They like a little bit of a social life. They like a buzz. They like more excitement around the team. And you still get a little more of that in New York.
I agree with that too, Jack. And and going back to the local teams again, you say, we said chemistry is very important, and that the talent, of course, is important, but you got to have that chemistry between the team and the members of the team. And I think Doc Rivers is a perfect fit for the 76ers. I'm going to tell you why. Doc is not one of those domineering head coaches. He knows how to – he's not going to come out and yell at you all the time. Not that he won't, but he's not one of those coaches, you do what I say or else. He comes in with a plan. He played the game very well. He did a good job coaching, maybe not an excellent job at coaching. He did a great job with the Celtics, and a lot of people have, kind of said derogatory things about him with last year's, with his team last year, with not getting enough out of the players he had there, that they were one of the favorites to go. But I think that in this situation, Doc again has a young team, right? Embiid and Simmons are young players. And I think that he will get the chemistry and the 76ers together. And I'm telling you right now, Jack, I mean, the Celtics are tough. The Nets have the best team on paper, but I like the 76ers a lot this year.
Joel Embiid is a star as it is. Can he still take his game up the extra little level and become a superstar? When you hear Joel Embiid, no one uses the term superstar. They use it for other players. They use it for Luka. They use it for Giannis, obviously for LeBron, Kawhi Leonard, and so on. But for some reason, they don't use that term with Joel Embiid. He's just a tiny bit short. But I think with that team, it comes down to the development of Ben Simmons. Is he ready to take the next step? Personally, I think him and Embiid on the court together isn't the best mix. It hasn't proven to be the best mix.
Yeah.
I think Simmons' potential is still untapped. But, we'll see. But Doc Rivers, like you say, is a stabilizing force there. And as the Philly guy says, Dwight Howard, okay, even though I'm not a firm believer yet, he has been towing the line. Yeah. He's accepted his role from last year, this year, and people do change, and perhaps he has, but I still got to wait a little longer before I'm a full believer.
I do agree with that, and of course the Celtics, they got some really good players on that side. I think it's going to be a real tight race, and I love the Knicks going to West Coast and beating West Coast teams. And, I think they got Portland, if I'm right, coming up tonight. No, they're playing the Kings tonight. So they're over in the West Coast. And let's see how they do on the West Coast. It's going to be very interesting. And your hockey update, Jax. The Jets beat the Senators 4-1. Lightning beats the Blue Jackets 3-2. The Canadians 7. The Canucks, I think it was 2. I'm sorry. I can't read my own writing sometimes. But the Canadians did beat the Canucks, scoring 7 goals. And the locals, Jack, the Islanders beat the Devils with Brock Nelson coming back from a bloody face to score in the third period. And the Bruins in a thriller, they beat the Flyers in double overtime 5-4.
I think that was a shootout. I didn't see that game. I watched some of the Devil Islander game yesterday. And the Devils played well for a couple of periods, and then the Rangers scored a couple of goals in the third period. The Islanders scored a couple of goals in the third period. Islanders are looking good. It's early in the year, but the Islanders just, they looked good yesterday. They were skating well, beating the Devils to the puck, and I was impressed with the Islander team yesterday.
Yeah, they have that. That coach has such a good defensive philosophy there, Jack. He bases his offense off the defense, where the Devils are offense, and I just think the Islanders are going to be the surprise team this year. I think the Flyers are good, the Flyers are good, and the Bruins are good. But watch out for the Islanders this year, Jack.
Well, their coach, Barry Trotz, is extremely innovative.
Yeah.
When you talk about strategy, coach against coach, he just seems to be an outstanding strategist where the players on the ice and all. And he reminds me of a football coach with formations and other things you wouldn't hear about in hockey. And
right.
That's why he has such a great reputation, and he's coached so many years in the league, and he's held in such high regard by his peers.
Definitely, Jack. So now we got some big football news, Jack, right? The Washington football team hires a new GM, Martin Mayhew. The Lions hire Don Campbell, who had a very interesting press conference. The Eagles hire Nick Sirianni, Jack, supposedly a quarterback expert or specialist, if you like. It's sort of like Freddie Kitchens was and Adam Gase was. And then Bellamy is still out there. So I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work out or not. I don't know if the Eagle fans will be happy with that or not. And you have the Pittsburgh Steelers signing Dwayne Haskins, Jack.
Well, just getting in all the things one at a time. For the Steelers, it's a no-lose thing getting Dwayne Haskins. Their actual backup is Mason Rudolph, who was a third-round pick a few years ago, and he's been with the Steelers since. And Mason Rudolph, they've invested time in him. Now, Ben Roethlisberger is not going to be much of a help to Dwayne Haskins. He wasn't to Mason Rudolph, because when Mason Rudolph was drafted, Ben Roethlisberger said he didn't see the sense behind it. And he said if Mason Rudolph comes to him and asks him a question, he'll give him advice to help him, but it's not my job to help him out, okay?
Right.
So that's Ben's thing, but the odds are there's a good chance, I should say, next year is going to be Ben Roethlisberger's last year quarterbacking the Steelers to anyone. He might even surprise us and retire this year. If you consider that Dwayne Haskins was a number 1 draft pick a couple of years ago, Steelers are getting him cheap. It's like there's beautiful clothing that's on the clearance rack. That would have gone, let's say, for $100, and now you're seeing you only have to pay $12 for it. You figure, how could you lose? You weren't planning on paying the $12, the minimum amount, but you grab it off the rack. Like, wow, what a bargain. If anyone can develop Dwayne Haskins, it's going to be Mike Tomlin. So it's a really good move. Let me tell you something. You mentioned also, Mac, about the Lions. I want to talk about that, hiring the new coach, Dan Campbell. If I were the league office, I would find Dan Campbell immediately, or I would take away one of the draft choices, not an early one of the later rounds. The man at the press conference is talking about breaking and injuring other players with breaking their kneecaps. I mean, the guy sounded like an absolute moron. An absolute moron. No, I'm not saying he's not a smart man. I'm not saying he's not going to be a really good coach for the Lions. I'm not putting down the hiring. I'm just putting down the way he spoke. I understand, and I can respect. You get a little excited. You get a little carried away. But when you talk about injuring someone, what happens now if one of the opposing players suffers a knee injury and feels he was given a cheap shot by one of the Lion players? Even if it wasn't a cheap shot, they're going to go back to this idiot Dan Campbell talking about breaking the kneecaps. We had the same thing with Greg Williams when he was with the Saints. There was controversy whether he wanted to injure players. To talk like that, totally unacceptable. The league should fine him immediately. Get the word out. Dan Campbell should issue an apology. Say, look, guys, I didn't mean it literally. I just got carried away. And last, the Eagles hiring. You mentioned all this. Nick Sirianni. He was the offensive coordinator for Indianapolis under Frank Reich,
right?
Who was Carson Wentz's, offensive coordinator there with the Eagles before Frank Reich went to Indianapolis. And supposedly this is an ownership, hire. Obviously everything's an ownership hire, but it seems like they want to fix Carson Wentz.
Right.
But if Carson Wentz, let me ask you, Mac, who is the starting quarterback of the Eagles right now? Or is there supposed to be a competition? The Eagles haven't made anything clear. So I'm a little puzzled by all this.
Well, to answer your question, Jack, Carson Wentz is a starting quarterback because of that contract. They're not going to pay him all that money to back up anybody. So, listen, and I'm glad you broke it down because, I put the statements out there general before we start talking about him. Listen, I know Carson Wentz is a starting quarterback. I don't like the hire because they're hiring him because he's supposedly a quarterback specialist, and we've seen how that's worked out in other cases. And when you got a coach like Bellamy out there still that you could have a possibility of getting, I think it was a foolish hire. I know they interviewed 14 people, and for some reason they didn't hire any of those guys. But I think this was just for Carson Wentz. And if you're hiring somebody just for Carson Wentz, to me, that's not a reason to hire a head coach, as we saw with Freddie Kitchens, with the quarterback down there, Baker Mayfield, and we saw with Adam Gase. It doesn't work out. You've got to have somebody that runs a football team, and I don't know if he can do that. I'm not saying he can't, Jack. I just don't like the reason. Dwayne Haskins, I think, why not? As you said, why not? Why not give it? Let's see what Dwayne Haskins can do. And as far as a press conference goes, Jack, I mean, I understand you want to tell the people that you want to get out there and punch people in the nose, like sort of like what what Judge said when he was hired as head coach of the Giants. We wanted to represent the city and the people here. But when you start talking about biting people, I mean, that was kind of enjoyable. I was laughing, Jack, because I kind of understood where he was going. I think he got a little carried away. Maybe he thought he was playing football as tight end for the Lions again. But
the guy was losing it at a press conference.
I know.
He keep his poise during a game.
I
The
know.
guy was losing it.
Well-
Absolutely, I saw Dan Campbell falling apart.
Yes, it was. It was.
Called a timeout at the press conference. Timeout and take the guy to the back.
Throw a flag, Jack. They should have threw a flag at him right there. Yeah, they should have threw a flag.
There was some other news as well. Okay.
Well, wait a minute, Jack. Jack, wait 1 second. We'll cover that with Byron. Byron's backstage. I don't want him to wait too long. We'll bring him on and we'll talk about that news and we'll talk about a lot of things with Byron. So let's cover that. Let's bring Byron in. Byron Williams, of course, is our NFL analyst. He's played with 5 different professional football teams in 3 different football leagues. Most notably, he's most known for playing with the New York Giants in the 80s as they rebuilt that great team that Bill Parcells did. And also, guys, he played for the Philadelphia Eagles, one of our teams we cover. So let's bring in our NFL analyst, and we'll talk with Byron Williams. How are you doing today, Byron?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
Good, Byron. I'm not going to ask a question, Mac is, but before you leave today to show at the end, there's this one question I've always wondered about in football, and I can't figure it out for the life of me, and I'm sure you could clear it up because you played the game, okay?
Yes.
So
Okay.
don't let.
I try to clear it up.
Question at the end. I might keep all our listeners at suspense what the question's all about. I'm going to ask you it at the end.
Well, around this time too, Byron, we do one of my favorite segments, and we've had you in on this a few times in the last few weeks. So let's get to it.
No need to fear. Underdog is here.
When criminals in this world appear and break the laws that they should fear, and fight from all who see or hear, the cry goes up both far and near for underdog, 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 underdog.
So, guys, we'll get to all of Byron's questions and answers and all his analysts. But, man, I love this bit because it's my favorite cartoon is one of the reasons why. And we always want to get our underdog pick in on Friday. And Byron was great enough to come on with us last week and give his underdog pick. So guys, we've got 2 games this Sunday. We got Tampa Bay getting 3.5 at Green Bay. And right now, depending on Patrick Mahomes, the spread is kind of low. Buffalo is getting 3 at San Francisco. And we're going to start with Byron. Byron, what would be your pick if you thought there was a team that could beat the other team being underdog? What team would you pick?
Man, it is. I would probably go with Tampa Bay.
Okay. And why?
Green Bay.
Why, Byron?
Just because the way the defense is playing, that defense last week shut down a lot of things for the New Orleans Saints, and they played really aggressive, and playing up in Green Bay is gonna be tough though as well. But it's two good matchups this week, so it can go either way. Really, I think Buffalo can beat anybody out there as well. So yeah. I just think, but I'm going with Tom Brady. I predicted that Tom Brady would be the first guy to play at a hosted Super Bowl location, and the Super Bowl be in Tampa, so that's why I'm picking Tampa Bay. That's what I said before the year started.
Yeah, Jack, how about you? What is your underdog?
I'm gonna tell it to you, but I gotta mention this and ask Byron, is this a fact? And now with Tampa Bay at their practice facility, they see the construction going on, the setting up for the Super Bowl. They see that every day. No other team sees that but them. I would imagine what a motivation that's going to be every second that reminds you what the prize is. Even though obviously you're ready, you're going to play hard regardless and give 100%. Byron, does that give that extra little push? And then I'm going to answer the question, Mac. Seeing the setup at your practice facility, you see them setting up for the Super Bowl for your home field. Wow. I mean, it's like you tell yourself, I'd rather die than lose this game. Is that a mentality you take?
I absolutely think you got a point there. I think just being there and seeing it and seeing what's happening in the city, I mean, they just got to give you an extra excitement. So I think, of course, I think they give you a little bit more advantage of hosting it as well as being a big part of the biggest show on earth every year. So I think you're absolutely right, Jack. That could be a great point.
But with that said, the team that has the best chance of springing an upset, I would say the Buffalo Bills. I picked the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl in the beginning of the year. I'm sticking with the Chiefs. I'm not all high on Chad Henne if he plays. Chad Henne did not win the game. He preserved the game. There's a difference involved. He protected the game. He used his legs, made a nice run. Then Andy Reid made a very gutsy call. I didn't like the call at all, because if it fails, Cleveland has the ball on the Kansas City 48 rather than punt the ball. And if they punted the ball, Cleveland would have had the ball approximately in all probability on their own 15-yard line with no timeouts left in a minute and 20 seconds or something like that. That's a heck of a long way to go for a touchdown. So at best, Cleveland would have had a couple of Hail Marys in the end zone, which I don't have to tell you, Byron, as a receiver, those are very dangerous. You don't want it to come down to that. So because it succeeded, Andy Reid is a genius. Everyone loves him. But imagine that play didn't succeed. What they'd be saying, is Patrick Mahomes going to be playing? That's the question. Okay, and I would imagine if he plays, I want to say be 100%, but he has a bad toe as well. Okay, and so I just don't know. Kansas City hasn't dominated this year, despite a 14-2 record, a lot of close wins. You could take the attitude they were just coasting during the year, and the Bills on a little bit of a magical run here. And with the Packer game, sometimes you get a feeling with a team, I don't know whether you guys get the feeling, that this is their year. That, Aaron Rodgers has come short of the Super Bowl for a lot of years now. They were 13-3 last year's this year. You just get the feeling this is it, that they're set, that, the Packers just aren't going to lose in Green Bay. That's just my feeling. I mean, and that's not the best way of predicting a game, going on a feeling or whatever. You talk about logic, but
Jack, I'm with you. I think Buffalo, they're going to beat the Chiefs. I don't care if Patrick Mahomes is there or not.
I think they beat the Chiefs. I think they have a better chance than Tampa.
Well, I think they're going to beat the Chiefs. I think the Buffalo Bills will beat the Chiefs. Their defense showed me a lot last week, shutting down that Raven running game, and the passing game, of course. even if Patrick Mahomes plays, he's a lot better passer than Jackson is, of course. But I just was impressed with the defensive game plan. They won the game last week for the Bills. And, Cleveland, they were one fumble away from beating KC last week. I think it is Green Bay's year. I agree with you there. I think it is Green Bay's year. I think Green Bay is going to the Super Bowl. Tampa Bay is a great team. They're all great teams right now. They're all great teams, and they wouldn't be there if they weren't. But if I was to pick an upset, and I definitely believe Buffalo's got all the momentum. And if you brought up the Tampa Bay building the Super Bowl site there, and I think that puts a little extra pressure on you. How's that? I think it gives you more. When they have ceremonies for guys during games, guys, they have these ceremonies of awarding trophies, or it's Lawrence Taylor's day and the Giants lose the game, or it's we're raising a banner and they lose the game. I think it distracts them somewhat from their concentration on preparing for that game. So it may motivate them, but it's also distracting them. I mean, you're looking at this, you're just, wow, to me, Green Bay, it is their year. Byron, I'm going against you there. Tampa Bay may be better on paper, but I think Green Bay's got the better team chemistry, and I love Buffalo.
Let's talk about the weather. Byron, how's that going to affect Tampa Bay getting off the plane and getting to Green Bay?
It's not going to affect Tampa Bay because Tom Brady. Last night I watched the Kansas City Chiefs and the New England Patriots in 2018 AFC Championship game, and the weather was cold there, right? Tom Brady took them down in overtime and won the game. I'm telling you, Tom Brady is the difference maker, and I think that's what I'm going with. I think Tom Brady will. And plus, Green Bay had beat them earlier. It's hard for any team to beat a team twice in one season. We just found out that last week. New Orleans can beat them three times. It's something about playing a team twice that you have a different perspective on the game. So that's why I'm taking Tampa Bay, because this is going to be an upset week in Green Bay. And all the football players, when you're talking about playing and get a chance to play in the Super Bowl, regardless of the weather, the players going to be ready to play.
Hey, to follow up on what you just said, Byron, I'm going to bring you back to 1986 for a minute. The Giants played the Redskins twice in the regular season, beat them, and then beat them again in the championship 17-3. I'm a Giant fan, Byron. So, it can be done. And there is a even if you play each other a lot, I think it has a lot to do.
My Jets, when Walt Michaels coached them, they lost to Miami twice in the regular season and then lost them in the AFC Championship.
It happens. So Byron, good pick. You'll probably be the one that wins it, but that's all right. We'll go ahead and we'll stick with Buffalo. Me and Jack, we agree.
I think I'm 1 for 1. I think last week I lost, but the week before that I had picked Cleveland, but against Pittsburgh. But yeah,
yes, you did.
No one talks about with the Cleveland game losing to Kansas City. Kansas City made a defensive stop, okay? The last time Cleveland had the ball. So the game was there for Cleveland to come back. That's largely forgotten that Cleveland thought they'd punt, they'll get the ball back, and it just didn't happen.
There's so many, turnovers, as we saw, played a huge part in that game, and it does in every game. Special teams are underrated, and that's a huge part in any game that people don't talk about it.
Let me ask Byron this, okay? Getting back to Tampa Bay, Green Bay game. No one's talking about Antonio Brown, who's been hurt. He's touch and go for Sunday. With all the athletic trainers, the physical therapists, can't they get the guy ready to play in some way, shape, or form with modern science and all? It's something this big. What are they doing right now for Antonio Brown?
Well, they're doing a 24-hour therapy treatment on him, so he get treatment all around the clock. So he getting the best treatment that you can have, and I think that's gonna help speed up the recovery period for injury. So that's what players get now. They do a 24-hour cycle of treatment and really get the players back in a speedy way. So that's what they do behind the scenes. And the
Hey,
media
Byron.
never get a hold to talk about that, but that they do something like that.
Hey, Byron, we had the defensive line coach, I don't know if you saw it or not, for the New York Giants on a couple of days ago. Sean Spencer was with us. We had a great interview with him, and he's an incredible coach. And he talked about, we talked about a lot of things, his career, the Giants, and we talked about him, how good that defensive line played this year, run and pass, and I don't know how if you follow the position coaches carefully, but I even said to him that I hope he stays a whole career, but I have a feeling with the improvements. Well, what he did at Penn State was unbelievable, and coming up to the pros as a college coach and as a defensive line coach, not an assistant, but a defensive line coach, a position coach. That defensive line looked great with Leonard Williams. Lawrence and Hill, and even the bench players came in and made significant contributions, stacking the quarterback and stuff. And, of course, we know Williams had over 10 sacks this year. And I said to him, I hope he spends a whole career with the Giants. But I have a feeling he might get defensive coordinator sooner than later. But I have a feeling that man's going to have his own team one day. I mean, he's that good of a coach, that good of a motivator. What are your thoughts on Coach Spencer?
Oh yeah, no doubt. Because if you have a chance to have a defensive group, a defensive team, linemen and perform the way they did, that just brings so much excitement. And give him a chance, an opportunity to become a head coach and be a defensive coordinator. I think that's what football is all about now. And the team, the reflection of the play of those defensive linemen, Williams and those guys this year is a reflection of the coach. And he definitely gonna have another opportunity, some bigger opportunities. And I think that's great. I think now you see that more often than ever before, the guys becoming head coaches on all different levels.
I found him to be a very endearing individual. I really took a liking to him when he got interviewed for the Giant job. He said it was like a dream. He said even if he didn't get the job, the idea he was in the building, and he was in awe that he was in the building getting interviewed, and he said that he'd always take that he was actually in the building, but he got the job, so great for him. And I think, like Max says, he has a great future ahead. Yeah. And that's great. And get to see him up close and interview him. You have a different perspective for a guy, and that's great. I'm happy for him, and he will get an opportunity.
Yeah, Byron, when I watch you, and like I said, even though we cover all the sports down deep, I'm a Giant fan. I was raised that way. I had no other choice. But all the way back to '67.
You're a great man. I can tell you're a great man.
Thank you. When I saw you play, I knew that the Giants found a great wide receiver, and I watched you on television doing your thing, and then when I finally got you in the interview, you finally get to meet these people as people, not just hollering questions at them and expect them to answer things. You talk to them, you get to know them as people, and and right now you're not only our analyst, but you're a friend of the show, and we talk and message off air. But the biggest thing I take away from it is getting to know you and what the kind of work you do off field and how you give back to the community. And I would have never known this stuff about you if I didn't have you on and talk to you, as a person to person instead of just a football player to, a reporter who's just, yelling questions at you. So that's the kind of interview we did with Coach Spence, and we kind of got him laughing and joking and comfortable. And he's an incredible person.
Now, can I ask Byron the question so I don't forget? I could never figure this out in all my years of watching football. There's a fumble. There's two guys jump on it. Before you know it, there's this big pile. The officials are taking forever to make a decision. What goes on in the bottom of the pile? Would guys actually break someone else's finger deliberately to just get the ball? Is it that heartless at the bottom of the pile? If a guy has the ball, I know you're going to want to snatch it away from him. You're on the ground. No one sees it. But a guy's that heartless that they would actually twist the guy's finger knowing they'd break it just so they would get the football. And how can the officials make a fair call? It's taking them forever to decide who gets the ball, and it's maybe changed hands a couple of times on the bottom of the pile.
Absolutely. It's
Have
a
you ever
lot
been
goes
on the
on.
bottom of the pile?
It's a lot goes on up under there. I mean, it's war up under there. But sometimes when you know your teammate have the ball, he'll let you know because you study trying to get that ball. So I mean, you'd be surprised what they do. I mean, you get hit in the private area, all kind of things like that happen. So I'm telling you, it's not fun. So the guy who had the ball sometimes alert his teammate, I got it. But the communication is awesome. And then the referee, they be like in a la world. They don't know what's going on.
They have no clue the ref.
They don't have no clue. But I tell you what, sometimes guys coming out there limping, hurting, all kind of things. So that's
guys got poked in the eye, actually.
Oh, everything happened. Everything happened, Jack. Hey, that ball is a magnet. That ball is like gold.
Yes.
You know, if you're digging for gold, that's what you try to do when you're in a pile like that. So
yes,
I'm waiting and waiting. The officials, like I said, are taking forever to make a call. And it's like either you make a quick decision who has the ball or not at the bottom. And there should be some type of rule. It's hard. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
There's no rule.
One guy piles on after the other, and then it's a tug of war. You can't see what's going on.
Well,
You'd be surprised how tough that is up under that pile. That's why the referees are all confused. They don't even know.
Yeah. And that maybe the instant replay has helped on a few instances, but I'll tell you, I've been in a couple of the bottom of them piles, and it's pretty evil down there. So Byron, and the Eagles hire Nick Sirianni as their offensive coordinator with Bieniemy still out there. Now, Sirianni is supposed to be like a quarterback guru again. And I guess that's to maybe fix Carson Wentz. But we've seen in the past couple years or few years hiring where Freddie Kitchens was hired for Baker Mayfield, Adam Gase was supposed to be a quarterback guru, and they didn't do too well. What are your thoughts on, being a former Eagle receiver? What are your thoughts on hiring somebody just because they're supposed to be a quarterback guru?
I think that might be the remedy for the problem. But Doug Peterson was a quarterback. Doug Peterson was supposed to be a quarterback guru. So I don't know if that's going to be the solution or not. But I think, you got to fix some of the other problems, your offensive linemen. And they need a receiver, too. So I just think, sometimes general managers get to think it's too much. And so that might not be the major problem, but hopefully that'd be the problem and solution for the Eagles. But you never know. It's all about who's staying healthy, getting that offensive line fixed, and the chemistry fixed. Being able to, run different plays, have a good running back, offset. Just like the teams that's in the playoff, the last 4 teams, they have all of that connection that's going, and the chemistry is very important. So maybe they might see something that nobody else knows right now.
Yeah. Well, part of it, too, I think they should change the rule on hiring till the Super Bowl's over, because Todd Bowles was supposed to have interviewed for the Eagle job, and he's the Buccaneer defensive coordinator. Yeah. So that's where his concentration's lying right now. Eric Bieniemy's with the Kansas City Chiefs right now. And maybe they want to get this quick start, this early start, hire a coach, get to work, they get antsy. It's hard to be patient. Another fact, I think certain ownership wants to completely control the coach, completely. Some coaches can have more independence than the other. For example, if Jacksonville wanted Urban Meyer, who they hired, Urban Meyer has to run the football operation. Urban Meyer could be independent enough. If they tell Urban Meyer, you just coach the team, we make all the personnel decisions, Urban Meyer wouldn't take the job. Maybe that's what Eric Bieniemy said to the Eagles. No, I have to be able to run this, this, and this. And the GMs feel a little threatened by it.
Yeah, and that's important. All the GM, the owner, and the head coach need to be on the same page. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So getting back to the Tampa Bay Green Bay game for a minute. Of course, we got Brady versus Rodgers, 2 future Hall of Famers, 2 legends. But Byron, again, where the media focuses on, of course, is Brady and Rodgers. And as we discussed earlier, it's going to take a lot more than Brady or Rodgers to win that game. you're going to have to be able to shut down both quarterbacks on defense. They have to, especially Green Bay, has an electrifying running game with Jones. And, the Jones on Tampa Bay isn't too bad either. So, I mean, they both can throw the ball. We know both teams can throw the ball. It's going to be defense that has to stop these guys or at least slow them down to give the other offense a chance. And, of course, again, special teams, if they can get a break on special teams, either team, that will be a big major factor on who wins this. Am I correct in that?
Absolutely. I think you point on, the Jones running back for Tampa Bay have a 98-yard run this year. Of course, the Jones is electrified for Green Bay. But definitely, it's championship is always built around defense and running control of the game. So you might have that might be what it boils down to. Whoever plays that, and then thirdly, your special teams. And in that cold weather and the way the ball and the wind blowing up in Green Bay, that's gonna be a major factor.
I mean, you're talking punting and kicking. You know what I mean, Byron? Because field position is just as important.
Right.
Where you sit with the ball as it is, and to make them march that 80, 90 yards instead of giving them a quick score opportunity. And both teams have that. But again, as you're saying, the wind, the cold, all these elements are going to come into play. And if the special teams can get a break, that could win the game. So I'm really looking forward to both games. Coming up this championship, I think they're both going to be really good games, well played. If Mahomes plays, it's even going to be a better game where Kansas City could beat Buffalo. I've heard both ways. I heard he's not playing. I've heard that he's been upgraded. Reports are conflicting coming out of Kansas City right now, and I don't think that Andy Reid's going to let you know either way until he's absolutely sure, and that probably won't be until game time.
Guys, one of the things too. One of the most underrated positions in football is the backup quarterback. A lot of teams don't invest in a top-notch backup quarterback, okay? Now, Chad Henne has experience, but he's been so-so. There's a reason he hasn't been a starter in the league for that long, okay?
Right.
And but some of the teams will come in with a backup, and you just wonder what they're doing. I mean, Peyton Manning, great quarterback. It seemed like he never wanted a top-of-the-line backup for whatever reason, okay, in there. But, you just kind of wonder, I mean, who's the next man up? Now we see how important it is in today's NFL. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers should go down, the Patriots, and, they're going to have trouble. Same thing with New England. And maybe New England would have been better off keeping Jameis Winston. If they could have as a backup, figuring, look, be under Tom Brady 1 year instead of going to New Orleans and then reestablish your value that way. I don't know.
Well, right now, money plays a factor too with the starting quarterbacks. These quarterbacks are making $30+ million now, and the backup, that's hardly no money for a backup quarterback. So you got to give them $1 or $2 million a year, and that's another problem. You can't have two quarterbacks making $30 million and another making $15 million. Because that use up all your cap money. So that's another thing. Backup quarterbacks have to go down to under $5 million a year.
Yeah,
right. But certain teams like the Cowboys with Andy Dalton, perfect backup to have, But
Absolutely.
You don't have enough of that in the NFL. I mean, they just don't put a premium on the backups, I think, the way they should. That's just my thought.
Yeah, that's just based off of how much money these guys making now. And that's why I think, You just can't pay two quarterbacks $10+ million, and that's the problem. So the backup quarterback got to take a minimal.
And another problem with that too is we saw over in Chicago. I mean, when you take on a contract like Foles had, and they were quick to pull Trubisky even though he was winning games and put Foles in because Foles is making, $10 million or whatever the heck he was making a year, and you got Trubisky on a rookie contract, so they can kind of mess with him a little bit. So I think it has a lot to do with the payroll, as you say, Byron, probably number one. And we know Dalton only didn't take a lot of money to back up Prescott over there. I think he was only like $1.6 million.
No. He had a $3 million base and $7 million in incentives if he could meet all his incentives. That's
still
remember.
$3 million.
decent deal for backup.
Still $3 million for a starting quarterback, which Andy Dalton was, is sure not a lot of money. So, Byron, before we let you go, we're going to remind people about the camp that you run for the kids, to mentor them, to have them meet other players, to run them through drills. I mean, we're going to have Byron up on we're going to have a big Super Bowl show coming up here in a few weeks. Byron will be on. We're going to bring up some video. We're going to bring up some pictures and talk to him about his camp, especially then we do every week. We try to. But Super Bowl show, we're going to do a little special on what Byron does down there and the mentoring he does. And Byron, keep up that work because, man, people like you are far and few in between that are really trying to help the kids out that have, no fathers or come from a broken family and stuff like that. And we appreciate all you do down there, Byron.
I appreciate it. I'm finna go out. My back is tight this morning, Jack. I must have got hit in the back by Mike Tyson. But
it does a kidney.
I'm going to go feed some. I'm going to go in the food bank this morning with some guys, and we got to feed these people. But I might have to call and tell them to put me on the injury reserve today because I can't make it out there. But yeah, we love giving back, and it's all about trying to help people and less fortunate. So we're excited about the Super Bowl this year, and I'm making the call. We're gonna be doing something for a school down there in Tampa, hopefully, and for some kids that's underprivileged, that need some help. So that's what it's all about.
That'd be great if you're down there, Byron. We'd love to have you on live and maybe down there with some of them kids. That would be great if you can do that. So
Byron probably thinks he could still play the game if he got in shape, but this back,
Well, Byron could. I mean,
it kind of reminds him it's going to be a little too hard.
Yeah, well,
if we get down there, you'll see me out there on the field catching that ball. That's something that you ain't seen, Jack.
Yes, there you go.
Well, I don't know whether you could leap as high anymore. I don't know. I mean, that's the next thing I wanted. It's the most athletic thing in sports. Mac and myself maybe should debate that, and I shouldn't give it away. I'm amazed at these sideline catches, keeping the feet in, stretching out. I mean, you didn't see that back in the day. I'll say one thing.
Listen, Jack, you're not thinking, because I'll tell you right now, if you watch football in the 70s or the 70s, Lynn Swann.
I watched it then.
Well, Lynn Swann was actually out of bounds, caught the ball out of bounds, and got back in bounds by twisting his body. They had some great receivers back then. In fact, I met Lynn Swann one time. So anyway,
Lynn Swann's catch
those are
against
two
the
of my
Rams.
idols right there. Those guys. But man,
Right.
it was great. You guys have a great weekend. Thanks for what you guys do as well. You guys supported me this year. We did something with some kids again, but thank you guys for what you do as well.
And thanks for educating me about what goes on at the bottom of the pile. I had to resolve that in my head.
Well, before I let you go, Byron, if Jack lets me talk, before I let you go, we are going to try and get everybody together one day, everybody that's associated with the show and stuff like that. We're going to try. I don't know how soon. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a football, and we're going to roll it on the floor, and we're going to have Jack jump on it so he can actually find out what goes down at the bottom of that pile.
Jack will have a knot on his head, and he can't probably stand up once we get up.
Let me
try to recover that ball, because I'm telling you.
Let me tell you something. If I were playing and I knew that pile, I would find a way to just roll away, get out of the way. I would slap the ball towards a teammate.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's why you're not playing professional football, Jack. Hey, Byron, have a great day. Enjoy the games, and we'll see you again next week, Byron. Thanks again.
All right, you guys have a great day. Okay.
So there you go, Jack. Byron Williams, our NFL analyst, and one of my favorite guests. He's a real good man.
You need that heartless, Mac, to get the ball at the bottom of the pile. Would you actually break a guy's finger to get the ball?
In a heartbeat, Jack. So anyway,
I don't know. Could I do that? I mean, can you imagine a guy suing for assault that he got his finger broken deliberately?
No, I can't imagine that at all, Jack. So, guys, we'll be right back after these quick messages on the other side with TGI Sports Talk host Keith Engle bringing you football, basketball, and everything else. So one of our most professional, best guests we have on, Keith Engle. Right after this, folks, stick with us.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to
Continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org. We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
Alex is just
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor, get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk, they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on live Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. I am your host, Mac, with your co-host, the great Jack Hirsch. As we go through, Jack, another show where we have big guests and a lot of sports information for the folks out there today.
Look, hey, good stuff all the time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we just had on Byron Williams. For you those of you who are joining us right now, we just had on to the great Byron Williams, former NFL wide receiver for 5 different teams, notably the New York Giants and Philadelphia Eagles. And we talked about the championship, and we even talked about what goes down on the bottom of the pile, Jack, which you seem very
I was always curious. I mean, the officials take forever to make a decision.
Yeah.
I mean, and I can't imagine the guy who has the ball being given the ball maybe changes hands 2-3 times. They're poking one another, this and that. And I mean, Byron says guys are getting hit in the groin, guys are getting poked in the eye, guys are getting their fingers snapped down there. I mean, it's crazy what goes on there.
Yeah, definitely, Jack. And
the officials have no clue what's going on. And then they have to undo the pile. It's
and then they got to go to review, and there's a whole thing going on with that whole fumble issue. Coming up next, Jack, we have scheduled at around 9:15, Keith Engle, our friend from TGI Sports Talk, and he'll be talking a little bit about the AFC, what his opinions are on the AFC, what's going on over there, and he'll also be talking a lot about the Knicks too, as they're doing pretty good this year so far. So one of my favorite things we do every day, Jack, one of my favorite bits, of course, is our trivia question. So, Jack, I'm going to take you into basketball for a second here. And, every year they have during the NBA All-Star game, they have that slam dunk contest. And a lot of great players have won that. Michael Jordan, the slide. Yes, that man there, Jack. I got all caught up in the Ides there for a second, but you know who I'm talking about. So in the slam dunk contest, Jack, there was one winner who was one of the shortest players in NBA history. I'm wondering if you know who that player was that won the slam dunk contest as one of the shortest.
First off, Mac, I'm surprised you watched that nonsense, the slam dunk contest. That's not basketball.
Nah, it's fun, Jack.
Guy, I don't pay attention to it. I mean, oh boy.
Well, this guy was a great player, all-star player, Jack. And
I mean, I'm thinking in terms when you say short of Muggsy Bogues, that's
right.
who I'm thinking of, and that's I'll take a chance at Muggsy Bogues.
Well, Jack, you are incorrect. The shortest player ever to win the NBA Slam Dunk Contest was Spud Webb. I think you remember.
Spud Webb, yeah.
Yes, yeah. He 5'7", Jack, and he could get up
Muggsy
and.
was 5'6".
Right, but he didn't win the Slam Dunk Contest, Jack. So
Spud
that doesn't
Webb,
count.
Yeah. Okay,
So
cool. I mean,
yes. I know, Jack. I know frustration.
Now, let me give an example. Do you really think a guy 5'7" legitimately won the slam dunk contest? They probably thought it was all cute, all nice. Oh, he's short. It looks nice. So you embellish the guy's dunks because of his height. Now, I'm sure the taller guys, a number of them dunk better than him more effectively. But because he's 5'7", and what on earth is a guy 5'7" doing dunking the ball? Is he going to go one-on-one against someone else and dunk a ball during the game? I mean, it's all nonsense, honestly. But listen, good for Spud Webb. And then
when I watched the NBA a lot in the '80s, yes, Spud Webb would dunk the ball during the game, Jack, and he was an extremely good athlete. And yeah, of course, it kind of made it a little bit more interesting that Spud Webb, being 5'7", could go up there and do spinning dunks and stuff like that. So of course, I gave him a little edge, but that's to be said. But yeah, I mean, listen,
Mac, you probably went out and got those Air Jordans that had the pump, and you probably pumped up the shoe a little when you were younger. When you wanted to play, thinking you'd get a little more height, No,
Jack, I'm strictly a Converse guy. I was a kid before all that came. Yeah, that was it. I mean, I never got the chance to wear the Air Jordans. They came out a little bit after I was.
Mac, we go back. At least I go back so far. They had only two shoes: Converse and Keds.
Right, that's right, Keds.
Always wore Keds. If we got Converse, that was prestige, especially the Chuck Taylors.
Right.
Basketball player. Who the heck knows who Chuck Taylor is today?
Yes,
but
exactly.
That was a big deal. They say you got your Converse.
Yes, I got the Converse.
And Converse. Those
yes,
were the, there's no such thing as Nike, Adidas, Brooks, and on and on.
No, not in them days, Jack. It wasn't a specialty brands like they have today with the Air Jordans and stuff like that. So it was just I remember that slam dunk contest because I used to watch a lot in the 80s. I used to watch a lot of basketball, and that's when the Knicks were winning. And you had the Detroit Pistons and the Celtics and all those great teams, the Lakers all playing each other, and it was a great time in basketball anyway, Jack, because you had so many competitive teams trying to get over the top of each other. Not like today where you pretty much know that the Lakers are going to be there. I don't know any other team that could beat them in the West right now.
Well, we don't know that the Lakers are going to be there. It's not a foregone.
It's almost, Jack.
The Clippers are pretty good this year.
Pretty close.
Teams maybe, but Lakers are favored right now.
Pretty close.
Careful eye on the Clippers. After what happened to them last year, they have a little chip on their shoulder. So, don't count them out by any means.
Well, I don't, but anything can happen, Jack. But pretty much I think the Lakers and probably the Nets are going to be there. It's pretty much the way the teams are today. They're pretty much built as we know by the players, as opposed to staying with one team your whole career like they kind of did back then. Even when the 76ers came up and got in the championship, Dr. J was there for how many years, Jack? So, it's changed a lot. I don't know if it's for the better or for the worse, but it seemed a lot more enjoyable when you had like 6 teams at almost at their peak going at it, climbing over each other. And, maybe I'm just reminiscing here a little bit, but I did enjoy the game a lot more back then. And it's the same thing with college basketball for what they used to be, what it is now, Jack, with people leaving out of basketball so soon. You don't have the teams that, built a core of players for 3 or 4 years. And you I think it's watered it down a little bit. It's the March Madness is still kind of exciting, but it's not like what it used to be. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I miss the days.
Well, they're not there 4 years, the players like before. The competition would grow. There would be rivalries before because they were there for 4 years. Now you really don't have the true rivalries because the elite players aren't there long enough.
Right. Yeah, I know. So here I am reminiscing, going down memory lane, but it's some things I think shouldn't change. When it's not broke, don't fix it, or when it's broke, don't fix it. Whatever. Something like that.
I just want to make a quick note. We talked about football before. The former Packer GM Ted Thompson passed away at age 68. He was the one that drafted Aaron Rodgers, and they had to trade away Brett Favre because of that. And he was really the architect for that Packers Super Bowl victory, the one Super Bowl they won with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback. So I do want to mention that. And also Gary, and a less important note, obviously, than someone passing away, Gary Kubiak.
Yeah.
He retired as the offensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
He was the head coach of the Denver Broncos when they won the Super Bowl a few years ago, Peyton Manning's last game. He's been a long-time respected offensive coordinator. Gary Kubiak, considered a genius for that position, and he's stepping down. But reportedly, his son, who's under him on the staff, might be in line for that position. But Gary Kubiak, he's retired before.
Yes.
Time he might really, you get to feel.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if I agree with his son taking the position when there's other people that are qualified out there, but it is whatever they do.
If you have an edge to give a family member a break, sometimes you do it, but you have to feel they're qualified. Look what's going on in New England with Bill Belichick and the situation with Josh McDaniel. If Bill Belichick should decide, look, he wants an easier lifestyle. He doesn't want to grind the coaching. Because even Bill Parcells said about Bill Belichick, he's going to see at some point there's another life to live. It's not just coaching, but coaching has been Belichick's life. But he might follow Parcells' pattern, be in charge of an organization, but not have the daily grind the coaching, which is so many hours to put in. So does he give the job to Josh McDaniel, his loyal offensive coordinator, or does he give it on to his son who's on the staff, Stevie Belichick? That's why maybe Josh McDaniels is now looking elsewhere. And
Well,
he was a
Jack,
candidate for the Eagle job.
well, Jack,
that went elsewhere.
Well, Jack, it's a great question, and we got the person that might be able to answer that backstage right now. Let's bring on Keith Engle, host of TGI Sports Talk. Great show out there. Get a chance, go check it out. He's also on Northeast Streaming Sports, one of our better shows out there. And we'll bring him on right now, and let's see if he's got an answer for you, Jack. How you doing today, Keith?
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good morning.
Really good. I mean, we always end up Jack has a way, I think it's an instinct of segueing me into the next topic because he starts bringing up things and we have either a guest.
Putting you in a position to succeed, Mac.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
You're in a position to succeed. Now, if you don't, it's not on me. It's
exactly. So Jack's throwing me under the bus again, Keith. It's a good question, though, I think, Keith. I mean, here you have maybe the greatest coach in the history of football, who might be a little tired of coaching. He might want to move on and maybe be a GM over there at the Patriots. I mean, he may not even want to do that, but I imagine he holds a lot of water in what he says. And you got an offensive coordinator that's been there for a long time, as his right-hand man there. And then you got his son, who he's trying to bring along and coaching. And I don't even know what kind of experience his son has in coaching besides the Patriots. I haven't followed him. So, no. I mean, if Belichick decides to move up or move out, what do you think? Do you think they look at his son a little bit more than they look at Josh?
Well, if it were to happen tomorrow, no, right? If it happens tomorrow, it's going to probably be McDaniel if he moves up. Right. That's part of the equation is important. If he moves up, he's going to have say. If he moves out, it's not going to be his decision.
Right.
And I doubt that Stevie Belichick gets it then. I don't know. He's a young kid.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly how old he is. I don't even know if he's 30 years old, to be honest with you. But he's getting some valuable experience. I mean, he's really kind of been the de facto defensive coordinator for the last couple of years. And I think there's a possibility, but I think McDaniel still is the most viable guy to replace Belichick if it were to happen in the near term. But I'll be honest with you, I don't see it happening. Yeah. I don't see him walking his way. His dad was a lifer as a coach, and I think he's got it ingrained in him. And I think he may be there until they pry him off the sideline. I'm not sure, but that's the way it feels to me.
Yeah. Let's get to the AFC championship last week, Keith. I mean, Mahomes hurts his toe. Cleveland has a chance to win that game, maybe a fumble away, that fumble out the back of the end zone. They're right on the goal line. And if they get that touchdown there, the whole game, they're tied. The game is ready to rock. And Mahomes, after he hurt his toe, didn't look as sharp as he did in the beginning of the game. Do you like I don't like that rule, Keith. I don't like the rule when you're actually going in for a touchdown. And, okay, bring it back to the 20 for the offense, all right, and let them go for the 20 if you want to penalize them for fumbling the ball out of the end zone. And we know, at least I know why they made that rule, because Dave Casper was pushing the ball into the end zone.
Exactly.
They jumped on it, and they got a touchdown out of it, and they didn't want other teams copying that. But, I mean, to penalize a team that just drove down the field, and he's trying to reach out to score, and he gets the ball knocked out of his hand by the defender, and it goes out of bounds. How do you punish the offense for that? I don't understand.
I think it's a little harsh for the offense myself. I think the rule that, if you're – I also think there's a rule that if you fumble the ball, whatever, inside the 20, you're the only one that can recover it for a touchdown or for a gain. Or I'm not exactly sure what the rule is, but, I mean, to me, that's enough. And you're right. Bring the ball back to the 20, have some other rule, but to turn it over, I mean, it could be first and goal there. I don't know what the down situation was there. But you could be on first down and fumble the ball. If you fumble the ball out of the bounds at the 1, you still get the ball to 1. But if you fumble it into the end zone, you've lost it entirely. It seems harsh.
Definitely. I definitely agree with that. And, again, the Kansas City Chiefs squeak by. They don't dominate the Browns in any sort of fashion. I mean, they jumped out quick, and the Browns actually came back on them. The running game started kicking in, which I think is the Kansas City's biggest weakness, which Buffalo really doesn't do. And, again, Mahomes didn't look the same. He's going to be injured if he does play. They haven't made that decision. And I've heard both that he's going to be out and that he will be playing. So what happens in your assessment? I mean, we got the game coming up. Buffalo defense definitely stepped up last week. I mean, they kept Jackson in that running game in check. They threw the ball a lot, but that defense definitely won that game. What do you see for this week? I mean, you got, to me, a really good game that could go either way.
Well, this isn't going to be terribly out of the box, but it all hinges on Mahomes. I think if Mahomes plays, Kansas City finds a way to win. They're finding ways to win games. It's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a really good game. And Buffalo certainly has a chance to win it. But I think if Mahomes plays with his experience, playing in the last 2 AFC Championships games, losing one and learning a lot in that loss, I'm sure, and then winning last year, I think the experience will win out if he plays. If he doesn't play, I don't see any way Chad Henne beats the Bills.
Does anyone know the weather forecast for Kansas City? Because that could be a difficult place to play.
I don't think the weather's going to be terribly inclement. It might be a little cold, I think, but I don't think anything terrible. Again, you remember Buffalo's coming from Buffalo. It's not like they're coming from New Orleans. So
they're not under the same handicap maybe that the Buccaneers might be going into Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, look at the wind that Josh Allen had to navigate last week in Buffalo. I mean, that was a tough conditions there.
Yeah, definitely. And Keith, I mean, experience means something, but there's also, teams of destiny, I think, that get hot at the right time and they go in and they get, they start playing really well. I mean, that with the Giants and the Patriots. I mean, the Patriots were definitely the better team on paper and definitely had the better year. But all of a sudden, the Giants catch fire. They believe in themselves. They think that they go in there not thinking, but knowing they're going to win the game. And that's a big difference than somebody who kind of, lost one game and won one game and kind of gets in there. The Buffalo Bills look strong. I think Josh Allen can match up with Mahomes. Even if he's healthy, I think it's going to come down to whose defense plays better that game.
Yeah, I agree. And Buffalo's definitely playing better on defense than they played all year. I mean, we've talked about it before that, early in the year, they were really not good on defense, and their defense is what was keeping them in games last year as they became a playoff team, or the last 2 years as they became a playoff team. And now all of a sudden it's stepped up, and that is not, a small part of their success in this run. You're right. They're gelling at the right time. I mean, they're a really good football team, and I'm taking nothing away from them. If Mahomes, the only thing I see if Mahomes plays and he's 90%, 80% maybe even, and the Andy Reid experience on the sideline to me is going to be the edge in that game. But again, if Henne plays, my money's on Buffalo.
Okay. So go ahead, Jack. You got a question before I push on to the next?
Yeah, I was a little puzzled in the Cleveland Kansas City game that Kareem Hunt was underutilized, for a good part of the game. You think he's thirsting for revenge. He's psyched up playing his old team. And I just didn't understand it unless they thought Kansas City might be keying on him because of that factor. So they try other plays. But Cleveland didn't utilize their running game to the fullest against Kansas City. And Buffalo doesn't have the greatest running game themselves. Singletary's a useful back, but Josh Allen, the way I see it's going to have to beat Kansas City in the air.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm a little surprised at what I was surprised at the Cleveland approach myself, but actually it was the right approach as it turned out. I mean, Baker Mayfield played very well. Another guy I've not been high on, but he showed me a lot last week, and they game planned well, I think, to get him in positions to succeed. And even when they fell behind and they couldn't utilize that great running game that they've had, they played very well. And quite frankly, they probably should have won that game. Except I think they win the game. You talked about the fumble out through the end zone. I mean, obviously the key is how does Chad Henne get that first down running the ball, or get close to the first down? Sorry. I don't know what it was, 3rd and 15 or whatever, and he gets 14 yards, and then a gutsy call on 4th down.
Would you have gone for it? I never would have gone for
Absolutely.
it.
Every time.
You would have gone for it.
Every time.
Because if you punt the ball, Cleveland gets it back at about their own 15-yard line, approximately, with about 1:20 to go, and they would have had to go 8
They only need a field goal, Jack.
No timeouts.
They only need a field goal, right? So.
No, they needed a touchdown.
Oh no, they did need a touchdown. Sorry.
Right. That's
yeah.
right.
Anyway,
if they needed a field goal, that's another matter.
Now I'm still going for it. Bill Belichick would have gone for that every single time. I think Andy Reid has learned. If you remember Andy Reid when he was the Eagles head coach against Green Bay, had a similar situation. If you can't get 1 yard on 4th down in that situation, then you don't deserve to win the game anyway. Back that time, he kicked the ball away to Green Bay, and Brett Favre beat him. And I think Andy Reid learned a valuable lesson there.
Well, not only that, guys, we don't know what would have happened if they tried to punt. The punt could have got blocked. He could have mispunted it.
A lot of things.
We don't know what could have happened if he did punt the ball.
Bad snaps.
I agree with Keith in that situation alone. I mean, I don't think it's a good idea to punt to go for the first down every time. But in that position, you've got to put that game away. You don't want to give the Cleveland Browns a chance to even small chance.
About 85 yards, no timeouts.
Play to win.
I like my chances.
If you punt the ball there, you're playing not to lose.
Yeah, and again, I mean, Jack has a point. I mean, you're still gonna make them drive the field if
I agree.
But I do agree. If I'm a head coach, I want that. I'm getting that yard. If I lose it there, I lose it. And my team wasn't good enough, and that's the way I would have. Also, before we push on the next, I got one more question for you because it concerns the AFC East. The Jets have been way down for the last I don't know how many years. They get that new head coach, Salah from San Francisco, a very good defensive coordinator. Supposedly, from what I understand, listening to former players and coaches, he's a great communicator. And the Jets have 2 first-round draft picks this year, Keith. Good things ahead for the Jets?
I think so. I mean, everything I've learned about Salah this week has been very good. I think his first public appearance yesterday went very well. I mean, now he's got his catchphrase, right? All gas, no break. You're going to hear that ad nauseum in New York for the foreseeable future.
Sure.
I think they're heading in the right direction. I like that he brought along LaFleur from San Francisco with him. Right. He did great things with Jimmy Garoppolo out there and that offense. And I think he will help Sam Darnold a lot. And with the draft picks they have, there's a lot of debate about what they should do with them, right? Trade them, take the alignment at 2. I'm still in Devontae Smith's corner at number 2, man. Take him. Helps Sam Darnold more than offensive lineman.
Watson, you give them your 2nd overall pick in the draft. You give them number 23. You give them both first-rounders. And you have 2 first-rounders next year. You give them 1 of the first-rounders. And you give them Sam Darnold in the 3rd-round pick.
I think it's a long shot, Jack. I mean, I don't disagree that Deshaun Watson's a great player and would help any of the teams that have been talked about. But I'm not sold that he's going to move yet anyway, but probably a long shot for the Jets.
You will have a top 3 quarterback for the next decade.
Hey, I don't
Deshaun Watson, and they don't
disagree.
Often like that.
I don't want to play against him and Tua and Allen for the next decade. And as a Patriot fan, I mean,
yeah, that would be a heck of a trade for the Jets. We'll see what they do. I mean, we were talking about this too, Keith. When you get instead of a college coach, when you get a professional coordinator, football coordinator, not only will he bring coaches if the coaches are loyal to him and work with him, he'll bring some other players coming up on free agency that like work with him too. So, when you make a move like that with a really respected and liked coordinator, I mean, you could take, 3 or 4 players along with you coming up, like Parcells did all the time when he moved around.
That's an excellent point. Parcells did that probably better than anybody, to be honest with you. I mean, he killed the Patriots with taking ex-Patriots, and he killed the Jets when or the Giants. He took a lot of Giants to New England. I haven't really looked, to be honest with you, with the free agents on San Francisco and who might be available that would help the Jets. But that's certainly an excellent point, especially if you're a respected guy like him.
You're right. Nothing
Look for Richard Sherman to come to the Jets just as more or less a clubhouse presence.
That would be an
A
interesting.
loud voice that backs the coach who has the coach's back.
I think that might be. I would think he may be in play this offseason, so I don't think that would be a bad move actually. And I would think Richard Sherman had some good things to say about Saleh myself.
He did.
Yeah.
So guys, we're going to do a real quick a Knicks update because we got an author from the Mets coming up, Greg Prince here, come up in a few minutes. He's backstage waiting right now. The Knicks right now, Keith, they had a great game, great 3 games, really. You saw Barrett step up and have his biggest game. And you also saw Randall grabbing 17 rebounds. They're 8-8 now, 500. And Thibodeau's doing a great job. That's all I can say right now, putting this thing together.
Thibodeau's done awesome. Randall is the consistency that he brings in night in and night out is amazing. The team has seemed to kind of go as RJ Barrett goes, right? If he's playing well and shooting the ball well, they win. Look, they beat 2 of the best teams in the league, Boston and Milwaukee, by 30 and 40 points. Those,
very true.
Those aren't aberrations. We knew there's going to be ups and downs, right? They lost 5 in a row after we touted them 2 weeks ago. I'm all excited, rah rah rah, and I'm excited again though. Look at They just started a tough. They won 3 games in a row against some decent competition. Boston is certainly a really good team. I'm sorry, 2 in a row, and now they've started a tough 4-game road trip with a really good win in Golden State last night. They're not the Golden State of 3 or 4 years ago, of course, but it's still a really good road victory. And now you've got games in Portland and or Sacramento tonight, then Portland and Utah. Already beat Utah's 11-4. One of those losses is to the Knicks.
Right. So
what I like is that Thibodeau has changed the culture of the Knicks. They have stability in the organization. Now a free agent, a high-profile free agent, doesn't think the Knicks are a dysfunctional organization anymore, and they might want to come here.
You know what? It's very true, Jack, and they're really a lot deeper than I thought they were. There's different guys stepping up every night. Look at Noel last night stepped up with a really good game, 11 rebounds, and I think he was in double digits in points. They had 9 block shots last night, playing great defense. The attitude on the whole team has been transformed. The whole organization, again, except for maybe the owner. We'll leave the owner out so we don't ruin this conversation.
He's keeping out of the way. So
right. Maybe he's in quarantine maybe for the rest of the year. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not that low on him the way you guys are.
Well, we know that, but it is what it is. Yes, I think the building blocks are there, and it will attract some guys. They could be looking to make some trades come midseason for established guys.
Keith, that's a great point. I was thinking the same thing. As long as they're playing good competitive basketball and some free agents become available that want to go to a good young team, that's very possible. So Keith, thanks for coming in and visiting with us as you do every week. We got a big Super Bowl show that's out there with Northeast Streaming Sports that we'll be talking about more. Keith does a great job at TGI Sports Talk, folks. Check out his site. He's one of the better shows on the internet right now as far as sports go, and he's a great member of the Northeast Streaming Sports family. Keith, have a great day. Enjoy the games, and we'll see you next week.
You too, guys. Have a great weekend. Enjoy.
Take care.
So there you go, Keith Engle with some more great talk about the AFC and the Knicks. Jack, coming up next, we got one of the authors, one of the better authors as far as the Mets go, as far as all sports. Let's give him the right due here.
I think it's the wrong subtitle.
Oh, it is. Hold on. Let's get Greg Prince's subtitle there for him. That would help, right? We got so many guests. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with, but we have one of the best Mets authors. He's very experienced, a longtime Met fan, has wrote some great books, and we're going to be talking to him 1 second about the great job that he's done and the big moves the Mets have made. But first. There we go. There's Meet the Mets, and here's one of the, as I said, one of the best authors as far as the Mets go. He's written books, Amazing Again, Faith and Fear in Flushing, a great book on Piazza. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Hey, glad to be here. Glad to hear the national anthem.
Yeah.
Mac is sitting for it. I got to point that out.
Yes. I mean, listen, we've talked to Greg before. Before I think we had him on an interview not too long ago. Well, maybe quite a while ago, but it was on a different show, Greg. It's way back when I was on different shows. Yes, where we had you on, and you were such a good guest that I wanted to get you here on our new show on our new network. So let's get to a little bit about yourself, Greg. When did you actually start following the Mets? Give us the time that you really became a Mets fan.
I was a lad of 6 years old in the late summer, early fall of 1969. Just discovering baseball, just discovering the joys of opening the newspaper and looking at the standings and turning on the television and taking it all in and understanding the magnificence of the game. And what better time to stumble into the Mets than when they as well were being magnificent. And, they won me over right away, and they won a world championship right away. And, hey, they've won one since. So,
true.
What was it? Ralph Kiner was fond of quoting, or perhaps it was Tim McCarver, or you dance with them, what brung you? Been a Mets fan ever since.
Greg, I'm the opposite end of the spectrum in New York. I was raised a Yankee fan. My father was from New York, but my grandfather was a huge Mets fan. I mean, he was from Long Island, and he followed the Mets, after the Dodgers and the Giants left. And I was over at his house when the '69 World Series was on. And even at that young of an age, and I was a little bit older than you, not much, but I saw what to me was maybe the best young pitching staff in the history of baseball, with all the great pitchers there. Seaver was young. Nolan Ryan was kind of a reliever, but came out of the bullpen. The other pitcher there slips in my mind. I know Jack will name him in one.
Kuzman.
Thank you, Kuzman, who was an unbelievable pitcher for the Mets and really didn't have a big offense, but that pitching staff was unbelievable, Greg.
Yeah, that's what the Mets were about, and that's what pitching was about. It's kind of, in a way, hard to take pitching seriously in this day and age, with some exceptions, because I grew up on Tom Seaver, and what starting pitching was supposed to be was exemplified by him, and if not by him, then by Jerry Kuzman and Gary Gentry and Jim McAndrew, and spot starts by Nolan Ryan, and a little later John Matlack came along.
Right.
So that was always the signature of those Mets. And I think you're influenced by what you saw when you were coming along, and that kind of pitching,
Guys,
going 9 innings more often than not, throwing or at least flirting with shutouts, and even in those days when strikeouts weren't happening practically every batter,
Yeah, true.
a good 9, 10, 11 strikeout game. And the Mets were never about offense. Shea Stadium was never any kind of a hitter's park. Once in a while you'd luck into a good season. In '69, it was Cleon Jones hitting 340. Later on, you'd have blips from the likes of Rusty Staub or John Milner, Dave Kingman, but it was a pitching happy staff, and when they got good again, it was a pitching happy enterprise. And the Mets at their best are pitching and sometimes defense. Not so much defense in recent years, sadly, but the hitting has come along over the last 50 plus years. These things obviously come in waves, but Tom Seaver was my first favorite player, and he remains my favorite player forever. And that was a heck of a team fall in
Guys,
love
I
with
was
as a
at
kid.
Game 3 of the 1969 World Series. I played hooky from school. The one where A.G. made the catches, and Nolan Ryan came in out of the bullpen for that game. He used to drive Gil Hodges crazy.
Yeah.
Gil Hodges would say some guys have potential their whole life, referring to Ryan. I always wondered, how would Nolan Ryan have turned out had the Mets met his contract demands his whole career? Would he have been the Nolan Ryan we knew, or did he need a different environment?
I have enough of a memory of Ryan's days, 69, 70, 71, coming up where he was, even for a little kid, exasperating. Because, he could strike out 16, but it felt like he could walk 16 if they left him in long enough. And, in retrospect, perhaps Ryan, if he had pitched regularly, because pitchers were always bumped in deference to Seaver, Ryan, in those days, like a lot of players, had military reserve duty and would be absent for a couple of weeks. And, Ryan was the guy from Texas who was never really comfortable in New York. So you kind of string all that together. And I think it doesn't take a lot of hindsight to say, yeah, he was a change of scenery character. The fact that he blossomed so quickly once he went to the Angels, he was always sort of a wild pitcher, at least, through the 70s. But the fact that he just had to get out of New York, perhaps, had to get away from maybe the shadow of Seaver and Kuzman and the expectations. I don't know. It's certainly not a trade that goes down well in Mets history. I think the problem with a lot of trades, Mets or otherwise, is it's not so much that you traded the guy, given the circumstances, it's what you got back. And
Very true.
getting Jim Fregosi at that moment in his career to play a position he hadn't played, I think was a lot of wishful thinking. I was not quite 9 years old when that trade was made, and even I was thinking, why are they getting a shortstop to play third base?
They should have kept Jim Fregosi on as manager. He did a good job with the Phillies.
Yeah, I know. Fregosi had a great career everywhere but in New York, both as a player and a manager. It's just one of those things. So, you have to chalk that up to experience and try not to trade the next Nolan Ryan, I guess.
Right. Hey, Greg, let's talk a little bit about the present day Mets. And we'll touch on your books before the show is over, because I want people to go there and check out your books. But today's Mets under Cohen, right? Everybody, all the Mets fans are excited about having a guy that's a Mets fan being the owner that has a lot of money. And, he's already made some really good moves, picking up Lindor and McCann. I don't know if he's going to make any other moves or not. It looks like he's going to keep on the manager. He hasn't said anything, or I haven't seen any evidence that he's going to get rid of I think it's Rojas, if I'm saying it right. But what do you think so far? Do you think that the Mets, last year they had a good hitting team. They just couldn't hit with people in scoring position. They had pretty good starting pitcher, not counting the guy that opted out. You guys had a decent staff. Your relievers kind of let you down here and there a little bit. But they were, I thought last year that they made a step in the right direction. I thought in the beginning of the year they might compete for the division leadership, and they kind of fell short. Do you think these moves and having a man like Cohen in charge of the Mets right now is going to get the Mets, I shouldn't say you guys, but the Mets into a position where they can challenge for that division leadership this year?
I think they're definitely on the right track. We had been waiting as fans a long time for the team to be sold. And there's been nothing out of the Steve Cohen era, which is only a couple of months at this point, to be fair. But there's nothing out of the Steve Cohen ownership that disabuses me of optimism. This is a guy who I don't think waited all his life to buy a team and then kind of take the foot off the gas, if I can borrow a phrase that the Jets' new coach was using yesterday. All gas, no brakes. It may not quite be that. But, they going out and getting Francisco Lindor was an amazing move. And if you re-sign him, keep him around for X number of years, that's a commitment to winning. If you extend Michael Conforto, that's a commitment to winning. I think just in general, they've hit all the right notes. They may have hired the wrong general manager, as it turned out,
Right.
when you look at the entire picture. But they moved quickly to disassociate themselves from that guy. So you can't help but feel optimistic. You don't know how that's going to translate in the standings in 2021. In 2020, I don't think we had a real good read of what the organization was. I mean, there was only 60 games, like there was for everybody. But, there was just this sense of we're just happy to get on the field. We'll see if we can piece together a pitching performance every night because we can only use Jacob deGrom once every 5 days, sadly, and they were undermanned. So again, the season isn't starting tomorrow. We're not even 100% sure when the season is going to start this year. But I have to feel that they are a contending team over the course of a long haul. And I think they're going to continue to position themselves well for the years to come. I mean, when Cohn bought the team, I think he kind of threw it out there as, 3 to 5 years, I'd like to win a World Series. Well, wouldn't we all? But I think if you're in it every year and you have a realistic chance of being in the playoffs. I mean, I talked about coming of age, or at least coming to the Mets in 1969. Well, the years right after, they were okay. They didn't win anything. Then they won again in 73. And then there's a long lull. And that made me appreciate not just the winning early, but just being like a pretty good team that you would get to August and September and think you had a shot. And, in those days, it was just one team per division. Give me a team that's that kind of competitive as a baseline. Don't wander in the desert for years on end. And, I thought that the Mets as a whole were on the right path coming out of 2019, the last full season, when they hit great and they pitched pretty well and they made a kind of a surprise run. And then that kind of disappeared last year in the short year. So, and they did that with the Wilpons in charge. So you're doing this now with a guy with the resources, with the wherewithal. You've got Sandy Alderson back, who I always have a lot of confidence in. And, everybody is a year older, a year wiser within the core of the team. So I think it's a good time to be a Mets fan.
Okay, so let's touch on your books, and I agree with everything you said there. I think that the Mets with Cohen are gonna at least be going in the right direction. That the pitching staff is probably maybe the weakest point, but something like every other team, there are weak points in the team. Pitching is important. You got probably, you could say, the best pitcher in the league right now. DeGrom is no joke, and you do have a couple people that did opt out that still might sign with the Mets, and of course there's always free agency where you might be able to pick someone else up before the season starts. But let's get to a few of your books. You had the Amazing Again book. Can you tell the people a little bit about that?
Sure. Amazing Again was written about the 2015 season and the National League champion Mets. It's a lesson, I think, of how soon time flies. It feels like it was yesterday. In fact, it was 5 years ago that I was finishing up that book. It's, I talked about 1969. We're always coming back to 69 when you're a Mets fan, if you're lucky enough to have seen it. One of the things that kind of put it all together for me as a kid, because, again, I was 6 years old. I had no context. But in the coming years, I would visit my local library. I'd go to the sports section. And there are all these great books about the 69 Mets. I think they were like the full employment act for sports writers in the early 70s, because everybody wrote a book about the 69 Mets. And I lapped up every one of them, and I understood, where that team had come from, where the franchise had come from, how they put it all together. And that's kind of what I was trying to do with the Amazing Again. Once it became apparent that the Mets were at the very least going to be in a World Series, possibly win the World Series, I was contracted to, look at the season that the Mets finally got back on track. We went through a period, and I don't mind, by the way. You earlier corrected yourself when you said "you" for Mets, as if they were my responsibility. I've always been a big believer in "we," even though I'm not employed with the Mets. I've never played for the Mets, but I like first person plural. But anyway, we did wander in the desert through the first half of the 2010s. Came off the awful collapses that closed Shea Stadium, just the sterile feeling of Citi Field, the sense that nothing was ever going to go right again with this ownership. And then 2015 came along, and just enough things coalesced. And, you went from having this, funny, we're saying it again, a great pitching team that didn't hit that summer, the memorable trading and not trading Wilmer Flores, and then actually trading for Yoenis Cespedes, and the team taking off. And it was just, I think the book now reads as a bit of a time capsule, which I'm glad about. I think what I really hope for, and I don't know that kids go to libraries looking for baseball books anymore, but I would love to believe that there's some kid who's just getting into the Mets, or maybe just got into the Mets after 2015, stumbled across this book existing, and said, wow, I didn't know that. I want to learn more about the 2015 Mets. So it was a great moment to be in that headspace where we're talking about not, oh my God, the Mets are constantly letting us down, but wow, they really lifted us up. Not quite all the way that year. The World Series is, devoted to, I think I boiled it down to about 8 pages of honesty. The rest of it is a pretty uplifting story. And I was happy to help tell it.
So your book on Piazza, of course, I know a lot of people, and Piazza, probably one of the greatest offensive catchers in the history of baseball. I would say that without even flinching. That book was that really all about Piazza? I mean, I know the words icon was in there and in the title. Are you talking about his popularity? Or are you talking about everything, how he did as an offensive catcher? Defensively, he may not have been the best, but he was good. And he was very popular with Mets fans. So in that book, are you covering, everything about Piazza? Are you covering, the popularity as the main subject of the book?
Yeah, I think you touched on the key word in the title, icon. I really want to write about the Piazza era. Sometimes people refer to it, you wrote a biography, and it's not really a biography. It's about the paths that 3 entities took in the 90s and early 2000s. Mike Piazza, the New York Mets, and Mets fans, and how they all sort of coalesced in this phenomenon. Because I found it fascinating that Piazza's first games in the major leagues, September of 92, came just as the Mets were absolutely falling apart as a franchise, which had, one thing had nothing to do with the other. 3,000 miles apart. Here's this budding superstar hitter, which I don't think anybody really understood how good Piazza was going to be. And you had this franchise that had been riding along until 1992 and, inspired the worst team money could buy. And throw in the fact that this was the same summer, late summer, that Tom Seaver was inducted into the Hall of Fame as a Met, which was a given, but also a big deal. We had our first go in as a Met Hall of Famer, to use that phrase. And Seaver, big moment comes, and we don't know it, but we've got the next guy who's going to come in as a Met. There's no way of telling that in September of 1992, and certainly in 1993, Piazza's big rookie season. But I think what inspired this book was the fervor Mets fans had. You mentioned popularity. The fervor to get him elected to the Hall of Fame. He had to wait 4 years. And those nights in January where it was announced after he was first eligible and he was falling short, Twitter would always explode in anger. How could you leave the greatest hitting catcher in baseball history out? And it just got me thinking, why does he mean so much to us? Why does that era mean so much to us? So really that book is an exploration of those times, the pre-Piazza times, Piazza obviously coming along as a superstar in Los Angeles, but also where the Mets had to be to become this portal for him to enter and kind of raise his profile another level and take this franchise with him and go from being this guy who was kind of a reluctant business proposition to somebody who became arguably as beloved a Met position player as we've ever had. And, the happily ever after of it is when he gets not only elected to the Hall of Fame, says he's going to wear the NY on his cap, comes back to Citi Field, gets his number retired, which at that point was only something that as a player Seaver had. So it's an exploration of that. In retrospect, I almost want to call it the Piazza era, because again, it's not really a biography of the kid from Pennsylvania. I mean, we talked about his background and so forth, but it's more about the Mets and the Mets fans' relationship to their icon than anything else.
So Greg, we got only a few minutes left in the show, bringing you in at 9:30. One last thing for you, and of course, folks check out Faith and Fear in Flushing, another one of his great books. There was always one thing I always didn't understand about the Mets, and this is not critical or anything, but I always knew if you called the Mets the Yankees' little brother, they would get very upset with you because I know the Yankees have the bigger history. And I also, I do respect the Mets. I follow the Mets, as I say. But it's kind of endearing for the Yankees, and it's kind of an insult to the Mets. And if you want to get a Mets fan upset, all you got to say to him is, yeah, you're our little brother. Do you think the Mets fans resent the Yankees, or they resent the tradition, or is it just the fans?
I think anything that kind of takes away from your spotlight isn't welcome. So, again, if I will reference one more time, 1969. I had no context for what the Mets were, and I had no context for what the Yankees were. The Yankees were a fifth place team, and the Mets were the team I fell in love with. And so the little brother thing has always never registered with me, even in the years to come where the Mets would, fall into the cellar and the Yankees would go on and do great things. So I've never related to that. I guess the thing I relate to is the fact that the Mets were the inheritors of the legacy of the Giants and Dodgers.
Right.
And the proud bearers of the National League banner. I don't know that really resonates with fans who are generations removed now, and with interleague play, I don't know that it really means as much to people.
Right.
But, to me, the National League was the team that won the All-Star game every year. It had Willie Mays and Hank Aaron and Clemente and Lou Brock and Bob Gibson and Tom Seaver and all these great players. And the Mets were a part of that and winning a couple of championships therein. So I've never related to that idea of big brother, little brother. I think that, just to harken back briefly to the Piazza era, the Mets had come out of that terrible mid-90s malaise. And here they were competing, winning playoff spots, going to a World Series. And when that sort of thing happened in 69, 73, and 86, they were the toast of the town. When it happened in 99, 2000, it was kind of a footnote because the Yankees were going through their dynasty.
Sure.
And I think there's always been, resentment, to use your word, that we didn't get our time in the spotlight again when it was due. And every time we've sort of had a moment since then, 2006 came and went. That was the year to win the World Series again, I felt. 2015 was a beautiful moment. 2016 was a nice follow-up, but it was gone. So, I think that just enters into it. I think you want to be in a spot where if you're a Mets fan, you're not even thinking about the Yankees anymore. And they are not an automatic question every time somebody is signed or traded for. And there's a question, how do you feel the Mets will compete against the Yankees? Because I don't think anybody who the Yankees acquire is being asked that question in reverse. True. I don't think anybody asked Garrett Cole, how do you feel about the Mets?
So Greg,
when the Mets get their act together, I don't think it'll be an issue.
Well, we're running out of time, but you guys grew more fans as the Mets field than the Yankees did. I think you hit 3 million way before the Yankees did, or you were the first one to do it. So anyway, Greg, thank you for coming in. I enjoyed having you on with all your Mets knowledge. You have a great day. And listen, I think the Mets are going to be there this year. So again, thank you for coming in and
Great
coming
pleasure.
up. Have a great day.
Greg.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So there you go. Greg Prince with our Mets information. Got a lot in 30 minutes, Jack.
Good stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, folks, we're going to be signing off for today. Tomorrow, we will be back with the Jack and Max Sport Debate Show. So, yes, sir, Jack.
You're giving me top billing now. My name first. I like
Yes, I am, Jack. You deserve top billing every now and then. So, the Mac and Jack Sports Show will be back tomorrow with the debate, and our special guest we'll have in Dr. Paul Semendinger, our Yankees expert. And have a great day, folks. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. Thank you, guys.